Hello, good morning. Welcome to DFS Coach Talk. I'm your host, Josh Davis, also known as Crash. Today is Sunday, December 3rd, 2023, and I'm here to go over the Week 13 slate in the NFL. If you're new to the channel, if you would hit the like button and then hit subscribe. After you've done those two things, if you would hit the alarm bell, that will let you know when our newest podcast has gone live. If you're new to DFS Coach Talk, we would love to have you join us. We are a very family-friendly, very positive and encouraging community of DFS and prop betting minded people in our Discord. And our membership start as low as $4.99 a week. So we would love to have you join us. We also have our NBA special. That's going to give you the rest of the NBA season, of course, the NFL playoffs and the rest of the regular season. In the Super Bowl, and then the first few months of Major League Baseball as well as any other sports that we may cover, like PGA, NHL, maybe from time to time, soccer, pretty much everything. So we would love to have you join us and hope to see you soon. I will be giving away a free membership for a week during today's podcast. So definitely want to stick around for that. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get right into it. Our game-by-game overview here, starting with the first game, 1 p.m. Eastern, the Denver Broncos taking on the Houston Texans. Houston is a 3-point favorite, minus 170 on the money line. This game has an over-under of 47. They're indoors, so there's no weather. Then we have the Los Angeles Chargers taking on the Patriots in Foxborough. The Chargers are a 5.5-point favorite, minus 245 on the money line. 39.5 over under. There is 100% chance of rain. So it's definitely going to rain. 8-mile-an-hour winds blowing to the east-northeast. This is a game that I would probably avoid for the most part from fantasy standpoint, outside of maybe the defenses. This should be a fairly low-scoring game. And New England's offense has struggled anyway. So definitely think the Chargers defense could be in play there. Then we have the Detroit Lions taking on the New Orleans Saints in New Orleans. The Lions are a 4.5-point favorite, minus 220 on the money line. Game has a 47 over under. They're indoors. And we have the Atlanta Falcons taking on the New York Jets. The Falcons are a 2-point favorite, minus 130 on the money line. This game has, I think it's the lowest over under on the whole slate, 33.5. And it's on top of that, it's supposed to rain. So 51 degrees, 9-mile-an-hour winds blowing to the east. Falcons defense is definitely in play in that game. We have the Arizona Cardinals taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers in another game that's supposed to rain. Got a lot of rain today. Steelers are 6.5-point favorite, minus 280 on the money line, 41 over under, 51% chance of rain, 55 degrees, 8-mile-an-hour winds blowing to the southwest. We have the Indianapolis Colts taking on the Tennessee Titans. The Colts are a 1-point favorite on the road, minus 120 on the money line, 42 over under, 57 degrees, 11-mile-an-hour winds blowing to the west, no rain in the forecast. We have the Miami Dolphins taking on the Washington Commanders. The Dolphins are a 9-point favorite on the road, minus 450 on the money line. 49.5 over under. I think that's the highest on the slate. I'm almost positive. Yeah, it is. And there's no weather, no rain concerns. 58 degrees, 7-mile-an-hour winds blowing to the northwest. We have the Carolina Panthers taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 4:05 p.m. Eastern. In Tampa, 3.5-point favorite for Tampa, minus 190 on the money line. Low over under at 36.5. Small chance of rain at 28%. 80 degrees, 8-mile-an-hour winds blowing to the southwest. Then we have the Rams hosting the Cleveland Browns at 4:25 p.m. Eastern. The Rams are a 4-point favorite at home, minus 200 on the money line, 40.5 over under. We have the big game today, the San Francisco 49ers in Philadelphia taking on the Eagles. The 49ers are a 3-point favorite on the road, minus 160 on the money line, 48 over under. That's the second highest on the slate. 30% chance of rain, 54 degrees, wind blowing 6 miles an hour to the northeast. We have tonight's game, game I'm looking forward to, obviously. The Chiefs at the Packers. The Chiefs are a 6-point favorite, minus 255 on the money line, 42.5 over under. 10% chance of precipitation, which would be snow, 33 degrees, 7-mile-an-hour winds. Then tomorrow night, the Cincinnati Bengals are in Jacksonville taking on the Jaguars. Jacksonville's a 9.5-point favorite at home, minus 495 on the money line, 39 over under, 64 degrees, 9-mile-an-hour winds blowing to the west-northwest. Let's go ahead and take a look at the chat, see if we have any questions. Rodney, what's going on, man? Derek, how's it going? Jay Blazing, what's up, guys? Hope everybody is having a good Sunday morning so far. Let's go ahead and get into my top plays. At quarterback, we have Tua Tagovailoa. He's 7,900 on DraftKings, 8,400 on Fanduel, $35 on Yahoo. Going up against Washington, they have allowed the most fantasy points to quarterbacks this year. They got shredded by Dak Prescott on Thanksgiving. He had 331 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, and they allowed 45 points. And then the week before that, we saw Tommy DeVito, of all people, throw for 3 touchdowns against Washington. So Tua Tagovailoa is definitely in a good spot here. Should be one of the higher-owned quarterbacks on the slate. So if you're looking for a pivot from him for some value, I do like Kenny Pickett. He's 5,100 on DraftKings, 6,700 on FanDuel, $20 on Yahoo. The weather does hurt his value here a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be too bad. He's at home against Arizona. The Steelers fired their offensive coordinator the week before last, and when they played Cincinnati, they looked like a much better offense. It also helped to get Pat Freiermuth back. He was targeted I think I'm going to say like 15 times or something. He was targeted a ton against the Bengals, and the Cardinals have struggled, with tight ends. So I would expect that again. But they've also struggled with quarterbacks, which is why I like Pickett. They have allowed the 7th most fantasy points to quarterbacks this year. So I think Pickett should be a nice value play and probably lower owned because of the weather. Then we have my favorite running back from last week, Kyren Williams. 7,200 on DraftKings, 8,500 on FanDuel, $29 on Yahoo. Like I said, he was my favorite last week. He had a monster game for us. He had 16 carries for 143 yards, 6 receptions for 61 yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns for 41.4 DraftKings points. Going up against Cleveland, who has the number 1 pass defense in the NFL, so I would think the Rams would rely pretty heavily on Kyren Williams in the running game. The Browns have been worse on the road. They've allowed over 30 more yards rushing per game on the road at 122.4 compared to at home where they only allow 92.2. So I do like Kyren Williams at home against the Browns. The obvious value play is Zach Moss. He's 4,600 on DraftKings, 5,600 on FanDuel, $17 on Yahoo. Jonathan Taylor is having thumb surgery. He's supposed to be out 2 to 3 weeks. So we're going to go back to earlier this year when Moss was the lead back for the Colts. He actually had his best game of the year last time he faced Tennessee, so it's another good matchup for him again today. I think, like I said, he'll probably be one of the higher-owned players on the slate, but I think he deserves it, so I still think he's a good play, whether it would be in cash or tournaments. Then we have wide receiver. My favorite pay-up wide receiver today is A.J. Brown. He's 8,800 on DraftKings, 8,400 on FanDuel, $35 on Yahoo. At home against the 49ers, this is a game where if Philly wins, they can pretty much lock up the number 1 seed. I mean, not completely, but it's going to be pretty close because they'd be 11-1 at that point, and they'd have the tiebreaker over San Francisco, obviously. So I do like A.J. Brown here. San Francisco has been a little bit below average against wide receivers this year. They've allowed the 11th most fantasy points to wide receivers, so it's a decent matchup. Not a great matchup for A.J. Brown, but a decent matchup, and I think he's in a good spot. So value, you have A.T. Perry. He's 3,300 on DraftKings, 5,700 on FanDuel, $14 on Yahoo. The Saints have injuries they're dealing with to Rashid Shaheed. He's going to be out today. Same thing for Michael Thomas is still out. Chris Olave is supposed to play. He is questionable with a concussion. I'm sure they'll be very careful with him. So Perry's either going to be the first or the second option at wide receiver this week for New Orleans against the Lions, who have allowed the 8th most fantasy points to wide receivers. And they did have Jordan Love have a pretty nice game against them on Thanksgiving with 268 yards and 3 touchdowns. So do think A.T. Perry is going to be a nice value play. He'll probably be pretty high owned, but he's so cheap that I think he's still worth playing. Don't see any questions yet. Tight end, there's a couple different options that I like. David Njoku, you can go back to him. He's 4,100 on DraftKings, 5,600 on Fanduel, $18 on Yahoo. Last week against Denver, he had double-digit DraftKings points for the 6th game in a row. Going up against the Rams today, they have allowed the 10th most fantasy points to tight ends, so he should be in a pretty good spot to get another double-digit fantasy game, which for his price is a pretty decent value. The value play at tight end is Brevin Jordan. He's 2,500 on DraftKings, 4,300 on FanDuel, $10 on Yahoo. Dalton Schultz is out this week for Houston, so he should be the top tight end. They also have, I think his name's Strauman, but he didn't really get much look in the past, and I think that Brevin Jordan will be their main guy. So Brevin Jordan's a nice value against Denver, who has allowed the most fantasy points to tight ends this year. So I do like that. They do have a little bit of a logjam at receiver, though, because Noah Brown's supposed to be back. So you have Brown, Collins, Endell, and Robert Woods. So I'm not sure how many targets Jordan will get, but if he only gets, one touchdown, that's all we really need at his price. So then we have defense. I like the Dolphins against Washington. I like the Rams against the Browns. They have Joe Flacco starting at quarterback. So 2023 and Joe Flacco is back starting at quarterback. So that's interesting. But I do like the Rams defense against him. For value, I like the Saints defense against the Lions. Goff has really been turnover prone lately. The Saints have the 2nd most interceptions this year with 14, and they're tied for the 3rd most takeaways. So it's on the road, in that loud dome. I think that they could definitely force some turnovers, make Goff make some mistakes for sure. Hey, Doug, what's going on? Anybody have any questions for me? I don't see anybody new, so far we can't do our giveaway. My picks this week, my lock is the Steelers over the Cardinals at home. They are my favorite by far. Then the upset of the week, I'm not going for the win outright, but I do think the Saints can cover that 4.5-point spread against Detroit. I think they probably lose by like 3, but they cover that 4.5-point spread. For Prizepicks, we have my favorite picks. Jalen Hurts, more than 0.5 rushing touchdowns. He has at least 1 rushing touchdown in 6 of his last 7 games. The 49ers have the 2nd best run defense, so I can definitely see where at the goal line they would struggle to get in, and then they use Hurts to take them over the top. So I do like Hurts to get at least 1 rushing touchdown. As I mentioned before, Jared Goff, I like more than 0.5 interceptions. He's been turnover prone lately. The Saints have the 2nd most interceptions. It's on the road in that noisy dome. I definitely could see him throwing an interception, especially if they get behind early. And then Kyron Williams, more than 14.5 rushing attempts. He's gone over that number in 5 of his 7 games that he's played this year. Like I said, he's going up against the Browns, who have the number 1 pass defense. So I would think the Rams would rely heavily on the run game today. So I like more than 14.5 rushing attempts for Kyron Williams. How do I think Joe Flacco is going to do today? I think he's going to be in trouble. Kyron Williams in GPPs. Yeah, I like Kyron Williams in every format today. I just think he's going to get a heavy workload, and he's proven that, he can put up really nice numbers. So I do like Kyron Williams. Any last questions before we get out of here? All right. I don't see any questions. So if you have any last second questions, go ahead and type them in the chat and I'll answer them as I sign off. But hope everybody has an awesome Sunday. Let's absolutely crush it. And we'll be back again next week as we look to crush it in NFL, DFS, and Prizepicks. Thank you for joining.